Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Guidance with Gab. This week we had on Celena De Luna, who is a folk herbalist and just really great person to speak with. She obviously talks a lot about herbs as she is an herbalist. And that was really fun because I play around with some herbs. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm always making some concoctions with teas. Although her philosophy is using one herb at a time, maybe I don't use that advice, but she had some great insight and really showed me and reminded me to slow down, to take a second, to let the universe, nature, the overall energy of what I'm using in my day-to-day life to speak to me. We also venture into the world of Yoni Steaming and how we can use herbs with that, and how our womb and our uterus is a holder of so much emotional, energetic, physical energy that we can use to transform. So if you're into herbs and potentially into Yoni Steaming, then this one's for you. Enjoy. Today we have on Celena De Luna, folk herbalist, artist, and self-care enthusiast. She's a graduate from Gaia School of Healing and Earth Education and has experience with trauma recovery, metaphysical anatomy, and so much more. So welcome.
Hey. Hi.
So I saw your apprenticeship on your website with like the herbs and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like super intrigued. I was like, maybe this one's for me. I've always been into like just making my own weird teas without any background stuff. Definitely should probably use a little caution with that, but I've always found that really fun. But I guess to backtrack with you, where did your journey kind of start with herbs? Was it something that your family used all the time, or did it kind of just find you?
Yeah, definitely not with my family. I would say I grew up in, suburban American diet, like regular type of, going to pharmaceuticals, going to over-the-counter type of stuff. And I think that's probably, well, definitely where I've plummeted into like the healing field, is because I needed to really heal from all of those things. And I would say around 2013, I took a turn, and I definitely took a turn, and I felt like I went on like a documentary binge of like all these like health documentaries. Really started to wake up to a lot more, and just started shifting my diet. So it started with food, and with food comes, just seeing food as medicine and then using herbs accordingly. So I wasn't that familiar, but I was just intrigued, enthralled. My mind was starting to open. I wanted to make everything from scratch. And I've been an artist my whole life, and I just was just like, this is gonna be my new canvas. I'm kind of putting down the paints right now, and I'm just gonna play with food and create with that. And I felt like herbs were a nice way to paint the food. Like this was a nice way of working and mixing and flavoring things. And so, I just felt like I wanted to also start growing my herbs as well. I actually had at that end of that year started an almond milk company where I infused the herbs with the into the almond milk. And so I wanted just to get, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And
That's so cool.
it was something that was really unique and not out in the market, and honestly still don't even see it. But I was just wanting to do something really handmade, and I was really caring for every little single step. Like I literally wanted to go to a farm and get the almonds myself, and tried to find like a local almond tree, that type of thing, but I didn't know how many almonds I actually needed. And so I got into like more permaculture as well, because I started growing the herbs. That's kind of where I just started, yeah, composting and working with herbs and those types of things. So really having a little garden. I didn't have that much space at all, but I grew quite a lot. And I was growing herbs for the almond milk, and that was about 2 years I was doing that. And being young and having a food business, especially a raw food business, it was a lot of work. And my heart was, you know, pulling myself away to see what was next. And there was an herbal school, this herbal apprenticeship. And I knew that I really loved working with herbs, but I just didn't like one thing that I felt was missing is I would go on walks, I would connect with nature, I would feel really connected, but there was something missing where I just saw a blanket of green and I wanted to know the names of the plants. I wanted to know what was growing around me. And I just felt like, yeah, of course I have these books and stuff, but I just felt like I needed more of an experience.
Mm.
So the herbal apprenticeship I walked into um, was definitely that prayer answered. And that was a year, and I had kind of closed down my business. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was definitely still a side thing as an apprenticeship, but I just felt like, opening up that chapter and meeting incredible women through that experience. That school was really life changing for me because it wasn't based in a classroom. It was based out in the field, on the dirt, in a circle, sitting in ceremony with common plants and things that I just was like, yes, everything just felt so much of a yes for me in that experience. And that really offered me the foundation of knowing how to paint with herbs in a way where it's like you're learning about the colors, so you know how you can paint pretty much anything. You learn that foundation. That started my journey really at knowing how to navigate for myself, take my power back as far as how to navigate my health as well with herbs. So I would say it started there, and then that's really, really where it began. So
Wow. There's so much to unpack there. First of all, I just had this conversation with my friend of there's so many fun things out there. There's so much life to be lived, but sometimes we feel so fulfilled by making tea and cooking food from scratch and just going back to such basic things that are overlooked now. And that's like what I feel from you a little bit of that energy of thriving in the simplicity of just being in nature and touching the herbs and being with it and letting it speak to you. So I love that feeling that I'm getting right now. Did you have a like rough transition or like any weird transitions when you were switching from, the typical American diet to kind of like more natural herb stuff?
I would say so for sure. I feel like um I've always been dealing with some type of health type of issue, whether it's just like my gut issues or
Mm.
skin outs, and now learning about all of what that means, what the body's communicating. But it's just kind of been developing over time, just from those diets and stress and trauma and all these types of things that happen. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely healing with food will really shift things. I'm trying to remember how it was though if I did have a lot of I think what I feel like I've always really done is done things slowly.
Hmm.
I'm gonna release a food, I do it quite slowly. And that's been helpful. I feel like that's a bit of a compassionate thing that's really needed. Definitely had some cold turkey moments for sure, but
Hmm.
I when did I stop coffee? I stopped coffee a very long time ago. I also stopped with alcohol, which I wasn't ever really a drinker, but in high school and
Hmm.
socializing stuff. That was probably around all that year, like 2013. So I would say the transition was pretty smooth, to be honest. It's not, I think I was just like, that's not for me anymore, and I felt okay. Um, or maybe I blocked it out and I don't remember, but that's something that was like a hard transition for me. Because it's
Yeah. I feel like it's good too that you did it slow. I'm such a like cold turkey person, which definitely backfires in some situations because we all know that extremes don't really help out. But I'm such a like, if I'm changing it now and I'm changing it forever. So I'm sure that that helped a lot with that as well. How do you think herbs and this like more simple, I guess, lifestyle has impacted you?
oh my God. Um, what's connected to me? It's the herbs bring a connection with nature in general and with the soul, with spirit, with everything, with whatever this life is, like this the core of all of this. They're a reflection of that. They're a mirror to what's authentic. Like, And I think that's what nature and herbs really bring too. It's just like they're just raw, they're real, they're living. The same thing with animals. They're just authentic, and it really connects you back to what's important. So I feel like it's just brought me back to myself. And I think I do have a drive and a will to learn about myself and to constantly grow. And I would also say that just being very sensitive, um, like highly sensitive as far as just to sound and stimulation and things that are overwhelming or to a lot of stress. Like I feel like actually moving to a simpler diet and to real food that's from scratch, and also to working with herbs, they clear out a lot and you become more sensitive to what's really alive and what's important. So
Mm,
there's that. And you also start to see what's not so cool as well. So the stimulation, the stress, the chaos, that has never been good. And that, someone shouldn't be, you know, working to tolerate something that's unhealthy regardless.
mhm.
So I would say it's brought me back to what I truly value. Yeah.
I love that. I've been talking about that a lot lately, about how if we actually tune in and check in with ourselves after we eat a meal and like the hours after, we ask ourselves, how do we feel? I think our diets would definitely change, but it has to start with awareness. I love fruit. I love smoothie bowls. I love cold stuff, especially since I'm in Florida. I love eating outside, so just like a cold smoothie or yogurt bowl, it's so nourishing to like my heart, and I feel energized throughout the day. But if I eat like pancakes and heavy stuff, after that I'm like, I need to go to bed. Like I don't feel any drive to go do anything, and that's not to shit on like the balance of, you know, eating some fun foods every now and then, but it definitely makes me question before I eat, how is this going to make me feel after? Is my heart going to be happy? Am I going to be motivated? Am I going to have any type of energy for the rest of the day? If not, then why am I going to eat it? And I think in a culture like right now, I don't know, when we shit on extremes a little bit, people kind of come at me for the like health thing. But to me, I don't see it as like being overly healthy or anything like that. I see it as I'm choosing what makes me feel good. I don't think that should be up for debate at all.
Uh,
Um, yeah, that was mini rant there. Sorry. um, but something you mentioned was the spirit that you feel from the herb. So how do you find out the spiritual qualities and properties that herbs have and how they help us emotionally?
oh yeah, that's the fun part. Well, one, you need to start slowing down. There is a certain vibration at which, or certain frequency, I'm sorry, at which all life can be communicated with.
Mhm.
We have that ability. We're alive. We have a soul, and therefore we can really connect with all else, all life here, and everything is communicating. So it's also maybe understanding what it means to communicate and broadening the definition of what communication looks like. So it's not someone speaking to you in English, but it could be the way it makes you feel,
Mm,
uh, the qualities at which, like, compared to something else, which is also really nice, like, the texture of an apple compared to the texture of a banana. It's different. It's communicating something different. Then you can also even tune into, the actual facts about those things of what is that texture actually communicating. Does it have a different vitamin and mineral content? Does it, like, all of this, how is it growing in the field? What is it by? What is it like? Like more water? Does it like a little rougher environment? all of those things are communicating about that plant, about that fruit, about that living being of its uniqueness on this planet. And so you can start piercing the veil in that way of just taking it in just like you would another human being, right? Just
Mm.
how someone's brother is different than their mom. Like they have different qualities, they have different personalities. And so we can start slowing down and observing from that place. So it's not necessarily about, hey, speak to me, plant, like, and getting expecting a lot. You want to actually start slowing down and observing first. Um, Observing all the things that I just spoke about, and getting to know that plant, whether you are reading about it in a book or you're learning about its history, it's the way that humans have worked with it over time. And and then and then it's the personal relationship you have, right? So we all can know about Gabriella, about you, but how is it if I interact with you? It's going to be a
Mm.
different experience, right? And so it's the same with, say, you pick up some rosemary. There's so much information about rosemary. It's an amazing information, right? And then how is that rosemary plant right in front of you interacting with you? How does it make you feel? So these are just like little types of things that you can start with. And then also through the senses is an indicator at which we can, or sorry, and how we can navigate tuning into more of that soul spiritual type of world through our senses. Because all of our senses have the ability to be heightened, and we all have a particular way at which we also have like can connect with our senses. So sometimes our sense of taste is not as heightened as our sense of just knowing something, and
Mhm.
that's completely fine. Like capitalize on what you're more heightened with. So for me, I just have a knowing, right? And then I also have the ability to kind of see things in my mind's eye, and so I start from there, and I don't worry about needing to hear something or to feel it in another way. And you just focus on it. You just let life come through, and you
Mm.
focus on senses, and you see, like, you know, compared to how I feel now, after I've slowed down, after I've really tuned into how I feel right now, and then I bring it, how now do I feel? What's the difference? And it's a practice. It's a muscle that you can do for the rest of your life, and it's a mastery. But it's a way at which we could really start respecting, honoring, and building relationship with all life.
Mm. That was such a good answer. It was so beautiful. That's something that even on the last podcast that I had, which is probably coming out soon, it was about music and sound healing and frequencies. And I asked a question about like what hurts should we be listening to, because there's so much chaos out there of what you have to do. He's like, whatever feels good for you. There is no right or wrong. And I see that with food a lot too, because I'm deeply into nutrition. People are like, I have to eat this, I have to do that because it's good for this. But if it's not feeling good for you, then maybe that is just not good for you. And we always try to put ourselves in these like shoulds and coulds and have tos instead of it's really very simple. If it feels good, then it feels good. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And I love that you talked about that. We just need to let life flow, and it's so loud. Life is so loud if we listen, but if we try to overpower it with all these other things, then we're not going to hear anything. It's impossible to hear something if you're constantly making noise over it. Like, yeah, I don't know. And as for herbs, how do you use them, I guess, in your life? Like, how do you incorporate them? Maybe like teas or tinctures, or I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, I really do. I feel like I use them in all areas of my life. Um, like like one way, which is a fun way, is like kind of anywhere you would maybe use water in a recipe or in a smoothie. I don't do this all the time, but if I'm wanting to make a fun infused herbs, I'll mix in a tea. And
Mm,
depends on the type of tea, not all herbs I want to mix in. But if that's kind of how I'll incorporate it into a recipe. I cook with them, I juice them. I work a lot with herbs in my self-care. So again, that same thing of working with tea, but I love to use it on my face as a skin toner, as a way to clear energy as well. So there's certain herbs that are like really antiseptic,
mm,
um, antifungal, antimicrobial, all those types of things. So they like really help clear the skin. And say just one like sage, right? You can be garden sage, common sage that you find at the market, or it can be a local sage that also has, it's so antiseptic, but it also, energetically helps to clear out any negativity or density. It helps with that too, right? So working with that multitude and working with it on the skin. So just if I'm feeling more dense, if I feel like something's just in my field and I can't really see it, I'll maybe want to self-care with both clearing my skin, like actually using it as a toner for like, beautification and clearing.
mm.
This helps with my energy too, because we're not just one thing. We're not just a physical being. We're energetic. We're vibrating. And so, yeah, I'll use it on my skin. With medicine wise, um, you know, some types of herbal medicines that I like working with is herbal infused oils. So I use a good amount of oil like on my skin with um my own self-care. So working with that infused oil on my body, soaking my feet in herbs to kind of, it's actually a great immune boosting type of practice. If I had a bath, and when I have had a bath, love bathing in herbs. Um, Gosh, what other ways? Steaming is another great way. So when you steam an herb, just like if you're making tea on the stove, the medicine is going into the vapor, so you can breathe it in. That's like another welcoming in that herb into your body is through that vapor going into your lungs and entering that way, and it really helps kind of clear out any stuck energies, both physically and energetically. And that also helps with the skin, like really tightens and tones the skin. I love working with herbs for beauty. Like
Mhm.
it's one of my most favorite things. And it's just really supportive to like my my soul. It's really comforting. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's ways. And then the main way that I do, if I want to get to know a herb, or just even if I'm not even thinking to be that conscious, but just on a daily routine, I'll work with herbs. So try to have like
Mm.
like that.
I love that. Wow, yeah, and that's great that you offered so many ways for people to use it because people think of herbs sometimes and it's I don't like the taste or I don't like that, but it could be used in so many different areas, so many different ways. And I love that you mentioned that. And you talked about steaming, which I guess we'll venture into this world now because something that keeps popping up in my life is the Yoni steaming.
Yeah.
Um, so, for people that don't know, how would you, I guess, explain what yoni steaming really is, both physically, like how it works, and energetically?
Yeah, well, it's the same as, well, not the same. Same as steaming your yoni. So in the similar context where I just spoke about the vapors, the medicine of the herb going into vapors, but you're welcoming that into your vaginal canal so that it could also help to kind of clear out any gunk in that area. It's a very um insanely active area for a woman. There's so much going on there. There's so much life there. There's so much activity there as far as everything. And also a lot of your immune system, immune system goes there to protect it. And it's a whole universe, yoniverse universe. Like there's so much going on in our body. holy cow. I mean, talk about the entire body being in a whole universe of its own. So that's just a little planet.
Hmm.
And so when we're welcoming in steaming, we're welcoming in those vapors to help both physically, like I was talking about the antiseptics, and also energetically helping to clear any gunk that can be stuck there, especially because if we're moving through our bleed and before and after there can just be um like old excess blood or just mucus or things that weren't cleared properly. It helps to kind of loosen those things and help to when you do go on your bleed again to flush those things out. It also can like soften cysts and fibroids and those types of things if you're consistent about it. It just helps to also bring another form of uh, just like protecting against bacteria and yeast and these things that we want to help clear out. Even though our body does a really great job at that already, if you are struggling with something or you need help your body in those ways, it could help. That's the physical, right? Energetically, emotionally, I find that yoni steaming is very emotional. I mean, it's different for every single person. I know that I do it's just so important to know that it comes with emotion sometimes too, because like there's so much there. We can hold a lot of stress there. It's our area where we kind of store things with all of our relationships, both with the a partner but also just with anyone. So there's a lot there that we can start circulating. And like I said, with the steam, it circulates, it moves things, and it also then helps to clear. So when we do have emotion come up, know that it's circulating, but it's because it's leaving.
Hmm.
It's move it around. So that's another more spiritual, emotional practice that we can work with it. And it's also just really intimate time. I found that, when I'm yoni steaming, I do it in a really sacred self-care, like time for myself way where, it's like you're kind of seeing it as a ritual. Um, and I'm just really mindful of the time that I'm doing it, the space that I'm in, feeling like making sure it's really clean and putting a candle on, putting things that like, just shift my mood into just going internal. And just I feel like it almost kind of even puts you in a trance and just helps you kind of just go within into this like maybe even like this darker type of place, not darker in like just like you're going to sleep. And helps to clear. I know for women, they might cry, they might move energies that way. You can take a time to maybe journal. um, but it's that time where we can be with ourselves. And if you feel like you're needing something to help hold your hand in that and help clear, yoni steaming can be really.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely need to venture into that world. I wonder if it impacts your hips as well, just because it's all in the same area, and I know your hips hold a lot of just stuff, a lot of trauma. So I wonder if that would kind of translate into that area as well. Just like a thought that came into my mind. I feel like that would be so healing and such a connecting time for women too, because that's something that a lot of women are kind of shamed for. Anything self-care related to, oh no, a vagina. Oh, we said it, a vagina. It's like this taboo thing. Especially in schools, we hear all about a penis and how that works, and we know that that could be used for pleasure. And I think there's a lot of shame around, a vagina having pleasure. We see it as like pregnancy and periods and pain. But we don't see it as pleasure and intimacy and love and connection. That's not how we were taught. I don't know about you, but that's not how I was taught.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely in the school system, it was shamed, and it was never embraced that women can have the same sexual experience as men. This is a total tangent, but it makes sense. And I think yoni steaming might be a great way to help women connect in a way that isn't specifically sex, but it's also not being shamed. It's just like time to be with you and your body in a way where you're loving it, you're embracing it, you're accepting it. And that's awesome. I love this. And I hope that everyone listening, if you have a yoni, are branch into that world. How would you kind of simplify the world of herbs and plants to people that have no experience, no prior knowledge? Because I think it can get a little overwhelming, as each herb has, you know, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical properties. How would you kind of just do like a starter pack for herbs?
Totally. Well, I mean, I love even remaining at this place because, like I had mentioned before, just being highly sensitive and just getting overstimulated easily by a lot of information, and how I even started and continue to walk this path is keeping it very simple, keeping it with common things that are around you. So I would start I would start there. I would start with, maybe there's one herb that you know of. And I would not lean into like a caffeinated herb like green tea or something like that. I would more think of, like, say you go to the grocery store and you always see rosemary, or you cook with rosemary already, or your family has you know like context with rosemary, and your grandma puts it in her dish or whatever, and you just want to get to know it a little bit more. So start there and remain there. Continuously go back there and grow it, or get it at the store occasionally more than you usually do, and put it in a recipe. And then, if you want to sit with it, want to connect with it a little more, make a tea of it, a light tea of it, and sit with that and have it at night, or have it at a time where you're like, it's a quiet moment, and you don't have to, like, I don't know, expect to be tripping out or all this stuff, whatever. It's like just being in the moment and being with something is enough. It is absolutely enough. That's all it is. There's no other, you know, something else going on. I don't know. It's just like that is important. That's enough. That's worth everything. And there's so many types of herbalism. The practice that the what I've been taught and what I practice is folk herbalism. So it's really valuing the human experience with herbs, and that that knowledge being passed down from culture to culture, or human to human, and it really values your experience right now with that plant being valid. So starting there and remaining there, because I mean, I'm literally for simple, simple, simple. Not only that, because it's less stressful, but you're getting more out of it. And I value one-on-one, connections in with humans, and so I might have a bias there, but I see it in the same way, where it's like I feel like there's going to be more intimacy, connection, and more knowledge obtained if you are having a one-on-one conversation. You start slowing down rather than having, a talk with like 10 people, and it's really quick info, and like there's popcorn style type of thing. I mean, yes, that's an experience, but you'll probably get less meat out of it that can really carry you on to really knowing about the plant and having a connection. So staying and remaining in, just start one at a time and commit, invest, get curious, have fun, play with it. Like, it should be fun. You should be going towards health because it's something that you're choosing, not because you have to. If you feel like you need to learn about herbs, you're not in the right place. It should be something that should be playful. And yeah, so I would say for sure, starting there, remaining there, and again, there's a lot of benefit, like physical, tangible benefit to keeping it simple, because literally it's how your body registers things. It's safer if you're simplifying your diet and your herb intake, because it knows how it's knowing how to pick it up
Mm.
um, way more, and actually utilize it. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. It's again, just going back to simple things and not doing the overload of investing everything into, oh no, I now need to learn about herbs and it comes from a place of fear and I need to be incorporating this. So you overdo it and get stressed out. You just, what is this one thing gonna teach me? And I'm just gonna fully be with it. And that was just such a great way to put it. So thank you.
Yeah, I would like not like getting a bunch of herbal mixes as well. So like it can be quite just overwhelming if you like, because that's very common is herbs mixed together. So like I said, working with a single plant at a time, it's you just get to know it and register it way more. So yeah, just highlighting that because it's so common just to see herbs mixed together. And it's a beauty to that. There's an alchemy, but it definitely is an alchemy as well when you're trying to learn about it.
Yeah. So do you mostly, if you're making like a tea or an oil, do you usually personally use just like one herb when you're doing that?
I do.
Oh.
And that's a personal preference and also the way I've been taught. And I just really value that. I think it's actually more powerful, um, especially because you're getting more out of that plant. Even like if you're seeing herbs in capsules and in powders and all that stuff, and you're even trying to get it for a benefit, there is a micro level of that herb because all the other ones are equaling itself out. And so if you're just working with one herb or you go to that, like oregano oil or whatever that is, you're getting more of that herb and it's going to be helping you more. It's just it's more beneficial for how the body registers it. Again, there's an art form to mixing herbs, and there is benefit in some herbs enhancing each other, and the whole thing. Like I said, it's an art form, but if you're starting out, and also a place to come back to this foundation is that simple.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more, for sure. And then you're not having a crowded impact, You're just like being able to sit with the one thing and connect with that. But when you have so many different things going on, it might be harder to realize what's working with you and what's maybe not aligned with what you're going for. So do you have any memorable stories from working with clients or for yourself? That could be in any context. I know you do and have done a lot of different things. So it could be in any story that you like.
I would say my favorite experience is is both my personal experiences and hearing other people's experiences after we sit in ceremony with tea. So for your audience and for people to know, I don't actually work with any psychoactives, which is like ayahuasca, hape, combo, weed, or even cacao. Like I don't work with anything that's going to be have like toxic alkaloids and stimulate the adrenals. And that's for my personal healing because I've seen such side effects from that, and also from what I've learned, and also I just don't personally value it. So the way that I actually work with herbs, like I said, with the whole just sitting in tea and we can drop into the senses, that is a way where we can pierce the veil and learn and sit with herbs, get to know herbs in that way one by one. And you can, within that, you have a consciousness shifting experience and you can gain insight into that plant, into yourself, you have a little journey. And you get to learn about yourself and grow. And so those experiences from sitting with the plant have been honestly the most exciting things in life. I've had such incredible experiences, and also again leading those ceremonies and hearing people's experiences are my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, I would say hearing those from others. I can share one that really, there's been so many, but one that really stuck with me was during my apprenticeship. This is how I learned. We sat in ceremony with each plant and we just got to know one by one. And so it was more like shamanic based type of learning about herbs, and pulling from indigenous traditions. And I would say we also learned through herbs through the chakra system. So this was the heart chakra month. We were working with herbs that were supportive to the heart and circulation. And we were sitting with an herb or a berry called hawthorn berry.
Mm.
And we didn't know what it was. That's the fun of these tea ceremonies is you're kind of going in blinded, so that your mind doesn't create a lot of chatter and get in the way. And it just spoke to me so loudly that it really reminded me how much I can trust myself. I'm like, wow, I'm actually receiving something, and I can trust my intuition. I can trust that I'm awake, I'm aware, which can exponentially support your relationship with just trusting yourself. And that's the beauty that herbs have brought me. And this one particularly came as a deer. Like I just got an image of a deer, and then I got an image of a bush, like a red and with like red berries. And I didn't even know what I was drinking, so it was really cool. That was actually the plant. It was showing me what it looked like. And then yeah, I saw a deer and then some other things, kind of just like how you would maybe go into a dream and it doesn't really make sense, but you're pulling the symbolism. That's a lot with like journey work. And then you kind of decode it afterwards of what does that mean to me and all that stuff. The deer is really special to me. It's such a compassionate spirit and also really strong and gentle. Um, and it's such a also symbol of just like the heart as well, and particularly my heart. So then afterwards, I didn't really think much of it. You don't really know you can trust yourself or not. I'm like, maybe I'm just, thinking of some other reference in my brain, whatever. And then we had a sharing circle about, okay, who wants to share about their experience? We still don't know what the plan is. Someone spoke right before me and was like, I saw a deer and I saw this bush and I was like, oh my God, I literally just saw the same thing. And it was the coolest thing to know that you were tapping into a collective energy, something
Mm-hmm.
exists that is that spirit of that plant, that essence of that plant, and what it's associated with. And there was actually a couple others who was like, oh, I actually saw a deer too. That's honestly the coolest experiences, because it really just like wakes you up to out of the mundane, and the fact that you can trust yourself that there's so much more in this life than just your daily routine, but that this is a awake, aware, and living, breathing experience where everything is alive, everything wants to communicate with you. There's a lot on this earth that is here to support us, here to support our human experience of with evolving and healing. And you just remember that you're not alone. So those experiences with literally just sitting with an herb that is not psychoactive, that is like, and this is not always happening, but it's a potential that can happen when you are slowing down and a really strong intention.
Yeah, what a good story. I love that. That's so beautiful, and it like I pictured the whole experience when you were telling the story of sitting there and having that realization, because the collective energy is so powerful, especially in a setting like that. I'm sure it was just like a wave of oof, a wave of wow a little bit. So thank you for sharing such a cool story. And then I always ask this last question to the people I have on. So if you could tell the entire world one thing, you're in a room with the entire world, they're all listening, they're all paying attention to you. You could tell them one thing, what would it be?
God. Okay, let me think about this for a sec.
Go for it. Take your time.
I think it always comes back to this, whether I'm trying to tell myself this all the time, but it's like you are way more important than you really think, that you really do matter,
Mm,
and your body matters. Like the actual matter, like physical matter matters on this planet. I I even specifically want to connect and chat with those people that are they're having a hard time being on this planet because it could be so dense, and they will lean into wanting to escape in a bajillion ways, going out of body to the to the extreme of going into drugs, or to the other extreme of being a breatharian and just like, I'm done with food. Like this
Mm-hmm.
type, like, there's so many things that which we just want to escape, because this human experience of life, we all have different challenges. It can be really, really hard. And I think um just remembering how much you matter, and how valid it is to have a hard time, and that it's still okay, that you really do have a gift here. You really do have a unique thing that's good for you, that wants to hear you, that wants to see you, that there is room for you here. Um, yeah, just letting people know that they actually really do matter, and their body matters too. Their physical, the way that they physically care about their body, attuning to it, its needs, its physical needs for its sustenance to have a foundation to function, it matters too. So that we really eating our fruits and vegetables and restoring ourselves, so that we can so that it can feed us, and it only offers us more clarity, um, a breaking through out of depression, a breaking through out of the things that we think are just us, but they're not. They can actually be toxins inside of our body. They can be things that are actually, feeding off of us, and they need us to clear them through these things that are supportive to our body, so that it's honestly not our fault at all, that
Mm-hmm.
it's we need to clear it out, and it was never ours, and that will allow more life to move through.
Mm-hmm. You have such a good expression of bridging the worlds of emotional and spiritual and physical life. So thank you for that. And something that came up when you were talking about that was like, stop escaping and start feeling. I don't know where it came from, but it just came to me when you said people need to kind of like stop escaping. So thank you for just putting all of that together. I had such a good time on this. Where can my listeners find you?
I'm pretty active on my Instagram. So my business is Of the Moon Medicine. If you remember my name, Celena De Luna, it's De Luna is Of the Moon in English. So Of the Moon Medicine is my business. You can go on my website. It's probably out, but you can probably email me through there, and I will probably email you back if you ever have a question. But if you are on Instagram, Of the Moon Medicine, I'm pretty active on my DMs, and if you ever have a question or want to work with me one-on-one, or if you're just needing resources, I give a lot of free content. So you can always message me.
Awesome. I can definitely vouch for your content. I was on my deep Instagram scroll of all the different herbs, all the cool stuff that you were providing. So as someone who does follow you and enjoy your content, thank you for sharing. So yeah, I am very grateful to have you on. It was such a fulfilling conversation and such a good reminder to me to listen, to slow down, to just come back to me, come back home and listen to nature, listen to life. So thank you and good luck with all of your adventures, all of your classes, and everything that's meant for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good day.